Founders of the Future with Joe Mardell. Welcome to Founders of the Future, the podcast making emerging technologies accessible to anyone. My name is Joe Mardell, and in this podcast I interview founders of technology startups who are pioneering our future using emerging technologies to create new industries, business models, and opportunities. Hello and welcome back to the Founders of the Future podcast. This is episode 11, and today I'll be interviewing Tom Lev, the founder and CEO of TomBot.AI, an Israel-based chatbot startup who are using chatbot technologies to streamline customer services for the e-commerce sector. Hi Tom, thanks for joining me today. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'd really love if you could just take us back to the day when you started TomBot. Like, tell us a little bit of the background story, kind of what led you to begin this journey with TomBot.
Yeah, well, this was about 5 years ago at this point. I basically was looking for my next thing. I exited 2 companies in the social media space. So that went pretty well, and was looking for the next thing, and then bots seemed to be the hottest thing at the time. Facebook had come out with that big announcement, and that was kind of my that was the moment where I just took a shot at it. And then ever since then, it was very long, and there's a lot of players in the space. You take a while until you find your niche, because you can't. It's like selling a car. There's many different types. There's many different. There's electric. There's motor. There's many different type SUV. So there's different kinds of cars. There's different kind of chatbots for different types of spaces. And I think only recently we really got really clear on who we're trying to market to. We had a lot of different customers in a lot of different spaces, and I think it was time for us to really niche down. And so we ended up niching down on e-commerce, which I think is a really good space for chatbots. And specifically, what we're offering is a very simple solution for that particular thing.
Great. Yeah, I agree that e-commerce is a great place for a chatbot company. There's all kinds of opportunities there. What kind of processes did you use to identify that as your niche, to actually hone down on that? And why did you see that as the best opportunity?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, across the spectrum. Some of them are more becoming bigger than others. Originally, the big opportunity in chatbots was just kind of simple marketing bots on Facebook Messenger. And it was almost like just like a small little marketing, you could pay $10 or $50 and you can have this chatbot on Messenger. But that was never really the vision of what I wanted to do. The vision of what I wanted to create always was saving time in customer service. Like, I just always just was bogged down by the whole customer service process. I thought that it was arduous. I thought it was, very elongated. It kind of never ended. And you'd have these like really annoying wait times. And you'd get transferred from, department to department. And, it was just like, you kind of went around in circles, and it's still that way in a lot of places. And so my passion was always to do it in customer service. And it just took a long time to get the tools right for it to actually work. Um, and so to go back to your question, like the why customer service in e-commerce, um, is because it's really necessary there. Like if you take, for example, Amazon is a great example, right? They're a huge world leader in really, they're an e-commerce company, but what the reason why they're so successful is they say that they're customer centric. But really what that means is they're really just amazing at customer service. Um, and so, you know, when you look at what made them successful is they understood that everything was going online. All the e-commerce, all commerce was becoming digitized. And instead of you going and, I was trying to buy a chair, for example, yesterday, and I'm living in Israel and I can't buy a chair online. And it's like, I'm not used to that. I'm used to America. I can just go to Amazon. I can just buy a chair and get shipped to my house. Super, super simple and super convenient. And instead I have to go take time, talk to people, which, I like talking to people, but if I know what I want, why do I have to waste all that time? Um, and so they understood that, and then they really understood, making the customer experience, why are they so successful is because they understood the need for creating an amazing customer experience where other people kind of less made that important. And you can see that every company that's really, really customer oriented and customer centric ends up being successful. And Amazon sells a commodity product, right? They sell like commodities, right? They don't sell like anything special. They just sell what everybody else is selling. So the key, I think, in today's world is that, everything's obviously coming online. And the second thing is to be super customer centric and customer oriented and providing an amazing customer service. And the companies that I believe that are going to be like the difference, great customer service makes a difference, and horrible customer service really will bring your brand down. And so if you're in the middle, you might not survive either, because the great customer service people, those companies, those are the ones that win.
I agree completely. Yeah, definitely. In this day and age, customer service is essential with e-commerce. Yeah, if you don't have good customer service, then people are never going to stay on your website long enough to view your products, let alone even go through the whole purchasing process. So that is really important. And you mentioned that the process of kind of building your initial products was quite long, and it took you a while to figure out the exact services that you wanted to offer. So could you just talk a little bit about that process of like building your smart bots, and maybe if you had any challenges to overcome during that whole process?
Yeah. So you kind of briefly mentioned smart bots. I'll
Yeah.
just quickly touch on that. So there's smart bots, and then there's kind of the simple bots. The simple bots are just like the simple decision trees. Smart bots actually understand natural language. So smart bots are really what you need when you're doing this, like, customer care and customer service type of bots. The other bots that are marketing bots that are just content, really, they're basically like content machines. Those are pretty, awesome for marketing. But they don't need to be that sophisticated. They don't really need that much sophistication. The customer service side is like, you're dealing with like customer issues. The last thing you want to do is frustrate them. So it's a higher touch. And second of all, it's more sensitive. And so, really, yeah. So when it comes to these customer service bots, they have to be smart, and the technology that is basically like wrapped in the back end is not only like building out like a lot of flow and a lot of logic that's actually automating what you have to actually understand the actual process, right? The process between the agent and the user, or the agent and the customer. You have to really, really have like a deep understanding of that. Now, that's not that common that people have that understanding. Even the top firms, I'd say 50% or more, probably 60 or 70% haven't mapped out these processes yet down to a T, down on a whiteboard, down to a science. But now in 2020, now it's time to do that, basically. It's time to actually take the time to map these processes out, encode them into a smart machine that has artificial intelligence that can receive this information and do something with it and do it instantly and not have your customers wait. So that's really a critical, we're in a critical moment in time where that's shifting, right? Where artificial intelligence, like the technology's there, you can just, it's very simple. Within a couple of days, you can whiteboard it, figure out what your processes are, and then put it into the bot. And then also integrate it with your current systems, which is really important. Actually, it's a huge component of this is not only understanding and, but like a customer service agent is checking in a CRM. A customer service agent is looking up your information and identifying you. And we can do that actually in really, really amazing ways today using, let's just say, OTP, one-time password. You can, do an authentication or, a verification with the person's identity with his cell phone, sending him a code. He can just input the code and he can identify who he is. And so there's these amazing ways where you can automate a lot of these things. Ultimately, you're providing a much better customer experience, and ultimately you'll be saving a lot of time, which I can't even explain how important that is. When I'm on a website and I get frustrated, that brand loses points. If I'm on a website and I'm delighted, that brand gains points, behind the scenes in some meta layer of reality, right? So that's basically, in short, the answer to that question.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people do have the misconception that chatbots are just like a load of different programmed responses to certain things, but that's just not the case. They need to have a fundamental understanding of language, and that's what you're trying to offer with your services. So I think that it can lead to a lot of benefits for consumers. Can you identify any specific impacts that your services could have on businesses that would, be a direct result from implementing really smart AI customer service processes that could have long-term benefits for that company?
Yeah, so, obviously it would save them time in their company of people having to do this process, right? So those workers can basically get realigned into something that's, better for the company, and they'd be repurposed, right, for basically, a better use of their time and their resources and their energy and, what they'd be doing. And so that in itself is you shifting around a lot of value in the company. And then, like I said, it's like, let me ask you, like, do you like when you order something online, what companies do you like to order online from?
Well, yeah, I mean, you already mentioned Amazon, but I think that's everyone's go-to when they need to order something, just purely because of the amazing customer service.
Okay, so let's just, I'm sure if you order from a different company, you would expect the same level of customer service, you just would go to Amazon,
Yeah.
ultimately, right? So basically, if you just take that example, because of that service that Amazon is providing you, you're going to Amazon. So like, it's almost like, it's like, you're not going to do business with a company that has a bad customer service. So you might as well, if you're a company, you might as well up your customer service level, right? It's like, it's almost a requirement to play. It's a requirement to do business today is to have, a top customer service, or you're just going to lose business. And you're not going to even know why, even if you have a good product, people are not going to go to you anymore because they're going to go somewhere else where customer service is, the delivery times are better and the service is better and I can get answers to my questions faster. And, because for the most part, a lot of the products are, there's a lot of good products out there. There's a lot of, it's just about you'll go to where you get the best service and whatever brand resonates with you the most.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's starting to become more of a must-have rather than a nice-to-have. It is really an essential thing going into the next decade. And as you said, companies will be losing profits, losing sales, and they won't really have any explanation for it. So, it doesn't make sense for companies to spend all this time and money building an amazing product and then go cheap on their customer service. It's not sensible. Yeah, and what other kind of because a lot of people understand chatbots, but there is a lot of misconceptions around this area because a lot of people aren't very sure about AI and it's kind of a bit confusing for some people. So what sort of misconceptions do you think people have around chatbot technology and this whole area?
Really that it's like dumb and that it's unable to answer, like it's unable to understand. I think that's the big misconception today.
Yeah, and you're proving that that's not the case, all the time with your products, which is cool. Yeah, and you've already identified that moving into the next decade, there's going to be a trend of companies who are starting to build much more advanced chatbot systems for their customer service. Can you see any other future trends picking up of chatbots or this kind of conversational AI? Is there any interesting trends that you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah. One trend that I'm very bullish on is voice as well.
Yeah.
I think voice voice is just going to take over in the next couple of years. Like as these natural language interfaces, as they become smarter, it's just a natural progression for you to have like a very friendly, like, digital voice adapter on top of that, which will be a, kind of a very centralized part of your life. And, many people have said this, I know Gary Vaynerchuk said this for a while, but it's just, you'll wake up and you'll say, order me more, new toothbrush or a new toothpaste. And it will just kind of say, okay, done. And it'll be sent to your house, as opposed to you having to do to-do list and then you having to, take that to-do list and go into the store. And but no, it's like that whole process will just be it'll be so much more streamlined, right? So, buy me toothpaste and I say, sure, tomorrow we'll be there at this and this time. And then you'll be able to check up on it. Like, where is my delivery? And they'll say, it's in the air right now. It'll be there in a couple of hours. So I think that's the future that we're moving towards. Hopefully sooner than later. And I think, I think we're pretty close.
Yeah, I agree. Voice is so exciting. It's definitely one of the things that I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, I've been having this conversation recently with some of the older members of my family, maybe people who aren't too comfortable with the modern technology. So, I spend a bit of time helping older family members get to grips with like smartphones and stuff like that. And something that I've been saying recently is that I'm hoping in the future we'll be able to just talk to the smart devices using voice. And if you have a problem with your device, the smart AI will be able to walk you through a solution of how to solve that problem. Is that something that you think is possible in the near future, helping older members of the public to kind of use their technology with voice assistance?
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll have to come in a specific form factor that will resonate with different audiences. Like the younger generation will have like literally like a space pod in their house and they just like talk to it, and that would be fine for them. Like they don't care how they, the cooler and the more futuristic it is, it doesn't matter to them. But the older generation, like my grandma doesn't even doesn't know how to text. So like, it just like there's a technology barrier that you'd have to overcome with like a different form factor. So maybe it's in a something, it's like lodged in their like newspaper or something. I don't know, something that's super familiar to them. It would have to basically be something, on their chair, or something that would be really easy for them to access. But that's the beauty of AI, right? It's not just like in a computer or in a phone. It can literally be like ergonomically adjusted to that, to all types of people's environments, depending
Definitely.
on age and specificity.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to help. And maybe if one of the older users encountered a problem, instead of like traditionally having to take a device to a phone shop or ring up customer service or something like that, you might be able to just say, "Hey Alexa, I can't figure out how to do this. Can you tell me step by step what I need to do?" And then it might actually be able to just solve the problem then and there. So that's another example of how voice is just going to be really transformational in the future. Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
agree.
the only way, just to explain, like the only way that we're gonna get there to that level that you're describing is actually more, uh, you know, big companies adopting the technology that's basically like similar to like TomBot,
Yeah,
which, which is my company, and actually take the time to map out these flows. Um, it's we're still quite a ways away. Like there was GPT-3 that came out, you know, recently, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, which is a pretty amazing generator model. So it's pretty amazing implementation of like how a computer can almost think for itself. But it still has like like it has some really cool use cases, but it still has like a ton of basically, like setbacks or things that it's not completely able to handle. And, that's feeding it. I think it has like 185 billion data points, like parameters, right? So that's a ton of data, and it's 10 times more than the last one. So let's just say there's going to be 10 times more the next time.
mm,
We're talking about a trillion data points.
wow,
And so now we're starting to be able to do maybe a little bit more, some more sophisticated general AI things. Um, but I think my whole point is that the domain specific, what we're doing today with AI that's practical and able to give companies benefit today, is still the bridge to, like, it's almost two different technologies. It's under the same AI umbrella as, like, it's like technology that behaves like a machine, but it's like a two separate underlying, uh, like they actually use similar AI components, but it's like when you're able to feed it data on that scale of like the trillion parameters and know how to organize it properly underneath in the model, so the intention knows how to, actually pay attention to the right things. It's a complete, that the basically the data on that scale is opens up a whole different type of intelligence,
mm,
um,
yeah,
that the current models that are basically that you have to like manually train, that, it opens up a whole different type of like technology and a whole different type of intelligence, but also it opens up a huge like vulnerability, because you basically can't put that into production, because it's it could make a lot of mistakes. So basically, we need to, in the meantime, build it very by hand, until we get to a point where where we have, the data, basically like the data security and the data, like basically all the right security inputs in place so that you don't have a disaster.
That really is fascinating. I'm so glad you brought up the, is it GPT-3, the new OpenAI language set? What are some of the kind of biggest potentials for that, like the most exciting use cases that you could see on the horizon for this new development, do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, it's when you're talking about the GPT-3, you're really starting to talk about like general AI, and the applications for general AI could, it could be like, it almost like overwhelms the mind, because it's that, it can really, it's like out of a Black Mirror episode where like the thing is alive, and it's really like you don't have to pre-train it, and it's learning and it's getting, it's like a live technology, which is basically the gap the chasm that we're crossing right now as a humanity. Is like we're going from technology that like we're the masters to technology where it's like its own master. So it's like you can't even imagine the implications of something like that on a society when you're creating something that's actually a live, sentient, being in a way. And so, we're not too far from that reality. I think in the next 10 years, you'll see some amazing things.
Yeah, I think people need to make sure that they're looking at these technologies with an open mind and an optimistic mindset, because otherwise you do get drawn into these Black Mirror kind of perceptions of what's going on, and it's too easy to get drawn into the idea that it could lead to a bit more of a dystopian future. But I agree that these technologies, because they're just so powerful, they really do have the potential to solve some of the world's biggest problems and create a whole lot of value for a vast number of people. And you're one of the creative people who is helping us along that journey. So I'd just like to say thanks for your time, Tom. I think this has been a really interesting interview. I really appreciate you giving up the time to have this conversation.
It was a pleasure and a privilege, and thank you so much for your time, Joe.